My name is Sophie, and for 29 years, my world has been the size of this small town. My life is measured in flour and sugar, its rhythm set by the rising and falling of dough. I am a baker. It's a truth that settles deep in my bones. I love the solid, dependable feel of kneading dough under my palms, the magic of decorating a simple cake until it becomes a celebration, the warm, yeasty scent of the morning's first bread, a smell that has always promised me that today will be just like yesterday. My life was a quiet, predictable loop. I lived alone in a small apartment whose silence was a stark contrast to the cheerful bell of the bakery door. After work, the silence would greet me, sit with me through dinner, and tuck me into bed. I wasn't unhappy, not really, but a persistent, quiet loneliness was my most faithful companion. I was used to its weight, the same way you get used to a chill in an old house. Then came a morning when the sky wept. The rain came down in gray sheets, and through it, a man I'd never seen before pushed open the bakery door, bringing a gust of wind and a sense of something new. He was soaked, shivering slightly, but his eyes held a warmth that defied the cold clinging to his coat. He asked for coffee and a slice of apple pie, the simplest things we offered. As I handed him the warm plate and steaming mug, he wrapped his hands around the coffee cup as if it were a lifeline. He looked up at me, and his smile cut through the gloom of the day. "Thank you," he said, his voice deeper than I expected. "This smells like hope." His name was David. He came back the next day and the next. He became a fixture, a part of my morning routine as essential as lighting the ovens. He would sit at the small table by the window, a book open in front of him, but his eyes would often drift from the page to watch me work. Slowly, hesitantly, we began to build a bridge of words across the counter. He told me of the bustling city he'd left behind, of dreams that were bigger than this small town, and of the work that had brought him here. In return, I offered him pieces of my quiet world, stories of the bakery, descriptions of my little apartment, confessions of my deep love for turning simple ingredients into joy. Talking to David was like letting sunshine into a room I hadn't realized was dark. A genuine smile started to feel more at home on my face. One evening, as the last light faded from the sky, I was wiping down the counters and saw he was still at his table. He looked up and said, "It's dark out. Can I walk you home?" My breath caught. I said yes. We walked through the hushed streets, our footsteps echoing in a comfortable rhythm. For the first time, the silence beside me wasn't empty. It was filled with his presence. It felt like coming home. After that night, the space between us disappeared. He brought me wildflowers he'd booked from the side of the road, their simple beauty more precious than a dozen roses. We'd spend evenings in my small apartment, the glow of old movies dancing on our faces. He saw me, the real me, beneath the apron and the dusting of flour. And with him, the familiar ache of loneliness began to fade, replaced by a warmth that had nothing to do with my ovens. Then came the night that changed everything. Over dinner in my apartment, the comfortable quiet was replaced by a tension I could feel in the air. David's expression was serious, his eyes full of something I couldn't read. "Sophie," he began, and my heart didn't just beat fast, it stumbled. "I need to tell you something." He explained that his job might be pulling him back to his old city. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. He wasn't sure, not yet, but the possibility was real. I felt the old chill creeping back in. To lose him now, to go back to the silence, it was unthinkable. I tried to form a smile, but I felt my lips tremble. He reached across the table and took my hand, his grip firm and steady. "I don't want to lose this, Sophie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to lose you. Maybe you could come with me." The question felt enormous, a choice between two entirely different lives. My whole world was here, the familiar streets, the security of my bakery, the quiet predictability I had mistaken for peace. Could I leave it all behind? I needed to think. That night, sleep was a stranger. I lay awake picturing my life as a black and white photograph that David had begun to color in. To stay meant safety. To go meant him. It was the most terrifying and exhilarating choice I had ever faced. The next morning, with a knot in my stomach, I confided in my boss, a kind, elderly man who had known me for years. He listened patiently, then gave me a gentle smile. "Sophie," he said, his eyes full of wisdom, "you don't just bake bread, you pour your heart into it. A heart like yours can create warmth anywhere. Sometimes the safest place to be is not in a familiar town, but following the person who feels like home." A week later, the possibility became a certainty. David had to move. That evening, he stood before me, his eyes filled with vulnerable hope. "Will you come with me?" he asked again. I looked at him, at the man who had walked in from the rain and shown me what it felt like to be truly seen. The fear was still there, but beneath it was a resounding, unshakable feeling. "Yes," I whispered, the word feeling both tiny and momentous. "Yes, David, I will come with you." He pulled me into a hug that felt like a promise, and I held on tight, breathing in the scent of him. In that embrace, I was both terrified of the life I was leaving and ecstatic for the one we were about to begin. Life rarely asks for our permission before it changes. It simply presents us with the door and asks us if we are brave enough to walk through it. I don't know what the future holds, what new bakeries or strange cities await. But for the first time in my life, I know with absolute certainty that I will not be facing it alone.